This weekend we attended a family celebration, and because the weather has been fantastic, we sat outside on the terrace. There was a structured awning to protect everybody from the sun, but there was a barbecue going, there were buckets of iced beer and soft drinks, and everybody was having a lovely time. And after a while, we sort of split into groups, as you do at a party, and we're chatting about different things. And some of my Mexican friends were saying, what is it that you do in Mexico City that is different from your life in Bradford in West Yorkshire? And how do you manage the distraction of living in a new city and the things that you want to do and explore, and the new museums or galleries or public parks that you want to visit? How does that get in the way of you being a writer? I was fascinated by the question. It came from a journalist, Joel, who works on one of the big national newspapers. And he said that for him, in writing articles, often it's the deadline that gets him round to sitting by his laptop, getting the words done, and then submitting that column to his daily editor for the newspaper, because he writes for print periodicals, but also for their online channel. And I was taken by the question, and I thought about it for a while, and I thought I'll make that the subject of today. I work very well to a deadline, and often if somebody gives me a week to beta read their manuscript, it will be a couple of days before I start, but then there is a pace that I can work with and I'm happy with, and that helps me. Other friends who write, I know that they like to get their plotting and their design of the book structure done as soon as possible, and then they will often have a routine that allows them to write for 3 or 4 hours a day, and they will produce the book in a process that is easy for them. Other friends use the Pomodoro method, where they will time themselves and create a structure where every day they can look at their watch, look at their timing device, perhaps on their phone or on their screen, and they'll break their writing down into 3 or 4 40-minute bursts of time. And at the end of those 160 minutes, they have got maybe 4 chapter outlines or 4 well-written initial chapter structures ready for editing the next day, and then writing another 3 or 4 modules of content over the next 4 blocks of time. When I write mostly in coffee shops for my fiction, that is my new project, and for my non-fiction, I tend to write here in the office or at home, sitting at one of the tables, maybe in the dining room or in another study somewhere else in the house. And for me, because I separate my non-fiction from my fiction work, I found it's easy to write in 2 separate spaces. So my fiction is here, my non-fiction is there, and that works for me. But it's the getting round to the actual writing that is the issue that I want to talk about, the procrastination. For example, I haven't written today, and as I record this, you can see that it's already not quite 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I have some work to do, but I will leave the house to work on a fiction manuscript in an hour or so. I've already today spent about 3 hours on paperwork. Some of that's to do with the rental of a bedroom in the other property. One of those documents that I had to work on today was a new tenancy agreement for another tenant moving into a building in the middle of June. I've had to deal with the sale and dispatch of some vintage books via eBay to other customers in the UK, and look at some legal paperwork for a couple of cases that are interesting to me for June and July. So I've already spent 3 hours today doing non-writing activity. Half of what I've done today will generate income. The other half is just the day-to-day admin of life. And we all have to do that, and we all deal with that in our different ways. So before I went to bed last night, I was mindful of what I need in the next 2 or 3 chapters of my Southall Minster story. In fact, you can see there's a guidebook to Southall Minster on one of the shelves behind me. I found that book really useful last month when I was visiting Southall. When I left Bradford and I went down to Southall to have a look at the Minster, I know it intuitively, having spent so much time around it as a child and as a teenager, but I wanted to go back and explore some of the passageways and where door access points were and where the security office is and things like that, so that I can be true to the atmosphere and layout of the Minster in writing some of the stories that are part of the book. And last night I was very much focused on thinking, okay, I know what I need for the next 2 or 3 chapters, and I need to write those today, i.e. the day that I'm in now. So procrastination for me is helped by thinking of the ways that I can break down the task. And as a writer, that means some of the research that is done simply before I sit down to write. Otherwise, I might go online to do some research, and that's an enormous way of stopping myself from writing. But the other thing is allocating specific time. I've talked in one of my videos about the importance for me of always having a watch on the desk in front of me when I'm writing, because it's a completely non-digital process. You know, it ticks, it's nice to look at, it's aesthetically pleasing, but it sits by my journal as I am physically writing with a pen in a journal, or it sits on the table in the coffee shop next to my iPad screen as I write on a wireless keyboard like this one, which I find really helpful. Procrastination, you beat it by having a plan, and you also beat it by having a specific goal and a target. I started this particular novel almost 2 months ago. I took it to about 70,000 words, I think, before I went down to Southall to do some more research. Since then, I've written another 20,000 words, and I find it's helpful to put word counts in my physical diary. And I'll just cover up some of it. Is that on Thursday the 5th, I went to a restaurant called Talks, and there I wrote 2,025 words. Now, I was there about 2 hours, so that's my normal 800 to 1,000 words an hour, and that was fairly straightforward and fairly easy. And I did the same again the next day. I wrote another 1,200 words at a coffee shop. But being accountable to myself by marking down my writing time and my word count output in a journal is very helpful. And I will, at the end of the week, make a summary of the words that I've written. And from that summary of words, I am giving myself permission to keep writing at the same rate, or I'm pushing myself to beat the sense of procrastination and actually get more words written or be more regular with the way that I construct words. And I am out and about in coffee shops. So some of us beat procrastination by setting goals for daily word count. Others of us, we set blocks of time and say that regardless of what I actually write, I will write for this period of time. I talked about the friends who might write for 4 blocks of 40 minutes by setting a timer and work to that process and that regime, and that works for them. I think the other thing is, if you are creating written goals for your writing, and I don't just mean the daily word count, I mean the finished product. If, for example, we talk about NaNoWriMo, you're going to put together 50,000 words over the course of 30 days, and that will be the main body of your work that you then convert into a finished novel, perhaps the following month, by polishing and adding an extra 15 or 20,000 words to make it a more standard 70,000 word novel for your genre. If your genre has less words, then you write less. If your genre has 80,000 or 90,000, and that's the expectation from your reader or audience, whether it's for the physical book or for the Kindle digital version, you work to that. That's another way of working to beat procrastination, because you are mindful of and you are bringing to life the target that is behind your writing and your physical diary or your timed work output. By making your writing an important and integral part of your daily routine, you will find that the whole concept of procrastination as a delaying technique or as a reason for avoiding the work that you want to create with your keyboard or with your pen and paper, that procrastination will dissipate, it will diminish, it will become far less. And what you'll find is that your writing output will be more productive. So set a date for the writing project so that perhaps from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, you have blocks of time during the course of a week where you know you will write. As I've already said, I am often busy in the morning with life administration, time management, paperwork completion, so that I find that my late afternoon or my early evening is my best writing time. So I will go to a coffee shop this afternoon for a couple of hours, and I will focus on the 3 chapters that I was considering last night, so that when I sit down to write, there is no, oh, I don't think I can do it. There is no, oh, what a pity, I don't have time. Because it's planned, it's prepped for, it's been considered beforehand. One of my friends who is a thriller writer, he loves to go running in the afternoon. He runs in the afternoon, and while he's doing that, his ideas expand, and he thinks about plot and characters and the way that the adventure will develop over the course of perhaps the act that he's working on and the 10 or 12 chapters within that particular act. And those ideas, when he gets back to his desk to start, that's where he starts straight away. He doesn't get involved in, oh, I can't do it, I don't think I know enough about the storyline, the characters, I don't like the characters. No, he comes to his work screen ready to write. I think a lot of the procrastination stories that we hear about in the media or that friends tell us about, those are excuses, not always, but those can often be excuses wrapped as the psychological battle to get started. But a plumber doesn't have procrastination when somebody says, will you come and fix or service my boiler? So why should you as a writer have procrastination? So I don't buy into the procrastination story as anything other than seeing it as a valid reason by which we might say to ourselves, I don't have time, or I don't know what to do, or I don't have the sufficient skill set. Those are all valid, but the more power you give them, the more difficult it will be to see yourself actually producing the next set of articles for your client that have been commissioned, or to write the book that you know that you need to write and you know that you need to get done in the next, let's say, 90 days. So procrastination is a choice. Procrastination is a decision about not pushing forward with your projects. And why should you lose out on projects that are important to you? I think you can overcome the concept of procrastination. So I hope that's helpful. Procrastination is a word that we give to not getting around to doing the things that are important to us. But the minute you give priority to those things which you want to finish or to accomplish, you will get the results that matter to you. You'll find that you are doing the work that is important to get your book finished, your poem entered into a competition, your short story submitted to an editor of a compilation. So I wish you luck with everything you're doing, but luck comes from hard work. In case you haven't heard it, it is labouring under the correct knowledge, L-U-C-K. Get on with what it is that's important to you. Let me know how you get on. Please add some comments here, give this video a like, share it with friends, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel so that I can continue to create content that is important to me as a writer, so that I can share it with other people, just as I learn so much from other YouTube channels that are helping me with my process every single day. Have a great day writing, and I wish you all the best.